Hello, everyone. My name is Rese, better known as Rese Alisa, and welcome to Covers and Pages podcast. Covers and Pages podcast is all about celebrating authors, narrators, book influencers, and bookstore owners who continue to empower the book space. And on today's episode of Covers and Pages podcast, who I have on the cover is narrator Mr. Lawrence Baldwin. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. First and foremost, thank you so much for just carving out the time to just chit chat with me. I'm looking forward to just getting to know you and your journey, just being in the audiobook world. So, first things first, let everyone know, who is Lawrence Baldwin?
Well, Lawrence Baldwin. Lawrence is just an alias, not my real name. I use the name because I work at a school, and I want to make sure none of my students find out some of the material I put on there. So that'll be great if they don't find that out. I work at a school, and I coach multiple sports. This narrating for me has been, a surprise to me, I've only been doing it for maybe just under 2 years, almost 2 years. So I'm still new to this. So it's been an interesting ride, especially within the last few months, for real.
Okay, so I want to back up just a little bit. So just tell everyone how you got started, just being a narrator, and what made you want to become a narrator.
Yeah, so at first, I never had narrating in mind. I was, I started hearing about my voice at work. And then I had a friend at church, constantly push me hey man, you ever thought about doing voiceover work or anything like that? Cause you have an amazing voice. I love hearing your voice. So calm and soothing. And I'm like, I didn't think about that, And he was like, yeah, man, I would love to hear your voice read a book. I could fall asleep. And every week at church, he would just push and push and push. And so he finally piqued my interest. I'm like, all right, let me look into this, But the thing is, it's interesting. For a long time, I've wanted to be a voice actor, not somebody reading books. But, and I looked into it, and it just seemed too difficult at first. The videos I was looking at to get started doing something like that, it just looked difficult. But the reason is because I was looking at voiceover work. Voiceover work is difficult to get into if you don't have an agent to guide you to to find the work for you. It's very difficult. But then I realized, or I learned through watching YouTube videos, that you could narrate books from the audible books, and at the time, and still do, I've listened to a lot of I love listening to audiobooks. So I did my research. I watched a ton of videos. Found out about ACX, which is the platform to record those books, to find different authors and narrators on acx.com, so that you can record books to have them go to Audible. So that's how I found out. And trial and error, I had to learn about equipment and editing, which was very difficult. So to answer your question, I never wanted to be a narrator at first, but then when I realized how much fun it was, it's very difficult too. That's when I became interested in it. So now I'm enjoying it. For sure.
So what has just been some of the challenges you faced since getting started?
Yeah, big one is, because you're new and you don't have a portfolio, it's going to be very difficult to kind of seem attractive to authors. You know what I mean? That's the hard part. You don't like, because on ACX, authors can see your auditions if you post them, right? Because you have to post them. You have to post your auditions, and you the work you've done is automatically on your profile. So if you have no work and you have just but a few auditions, like, it's, you don't, there's not much to work with. It will be difficult. The good thing about me is, or for me, is that it's my voice. Still right now, I have no portfolio. Like, I have one book under my name right now. But the thing that's drawn interest has been I think it might be really one thing. So in order to build, like, I guess I bolstered my profile with just recording samples of other people's books, not necessarily the books that I've auditioned for. And so that's what you'll see. Like, if you look at my TikTok, a lot of those are like just me sampling books that eventually turned into, I guess, like little auditions, So I would tag those authors in those samples, and it actually worked. Like, we actually had discussions, and boom, like, I got an offer. I'm like, okay, I wasn't looking to get offered anything. I just wanted to, like, kind of impress you or whatever. But yeah, so that's what I did, and I would take those same samples and push it into my ACX profile. And I've had, I can't tell you how many people have contacted me simply because of those samples I recorded. So, and once again, I only have one book under my belt. So, thankfully.
And for those who do not know, tell them what book that is and how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, so the book is called Luke and Adonis, Adonis Ignited, and that's the second book in a series by an author named Desiree Granby. She's a very passionate writer. So yeah, I was so on ACX as a narrator, you can search projects. You can search all the projects that authors post on there based on genre and how much they're willing to pay and so on and so forth. So I'm scrolling, and the first thing that catches my attention is the cover art. I'm a big cover person. Like, if you have a great cover art, I'm going to be interested. I want to know about it. So I clicked on it. I looked at it. First of all, the main character on the cover was black, and the writer was black. And I listen. First and foremost, I want to work with black authors. I want to work with my people, and I think there's something beautiful about black excellence. I want to do my best to do my, I want to do my best in anything that I do. So I did my audition, and surprisingly, it might have been the same day or the next day. She wanted me to do her book. I'm surprised. So yeah, she was saying, like, how my audition is exactly what she envisioned the book to sound like. I'm like, whoa, that's a huge compliment for me, So, yeah, I was excited. I was like, wow, well then I'm definitely excited to do this book. So, yeah, so that's how I met her, and that's how I got that book. A lot of fun.
So how do you prep for, because I saw on your TikTok that you're getting ready to narrate a second audiobook, which we'll get into that in a little bit. So how do you prep to start reading, or what does your prepping look like? Because I know, you're not just narrating just male voices, but you have to you have to kind of like tap into that female voice. So the first question is, how do you prep? And then I'll ask you the second question.
Yeah, it helps to understand the main characters, however many there are, their personalities and their temperaments, and who, like, whether they're black or white matters. You know what I'm saying? And where they come from matters. So I try to get that information from the authors. Like, give me some idea of who they are. I know this one author, she definitely was a big help to me. One of the characters, of a project that I'm working on like much later is a doctor, and she was like, he's very chill. He doesn't explore much. He likes staying in the house. He's not much of a talker. And I was like, okay, that sounds like me. I don't go anywhere really. I don't say much. And I like being home. So I like, okay, I could just be me for him, and then I'll either listen to the plot of the story from the author, or I'll just read it. Give me a plot, and then let me read the first few chapters to get a feel for what's happening. And then that way I gauge like the mood and the tone. How fast should I talk? Like, is it urgent? Is it, is the mood more poetic? You know what I mean? Like, is it deep? I don't know. So I plan it that way, and then what I'll do is like once I get a gist of what I'm doing and I get within the first few chapters, I'll take it chapter by chapter at that point. Like I'll read a chapter ahead before I actually record it, just so I can get a feel for what's going on. So that's how I'll do it.
So, okay, so beautiful. So just tell me, like, how is it when you have to narrate a woman's voice? Because when I'm listening to an audiobook with some of my favorite narrators, I'm just like, if I didn't know that this was a woman, like, if I did not know right off the back when they open up their book and they're introducing themselves and narrated by such and such whatever, I would think it's a man because the way they change their voice. And I think that is one of the beautiful things about audiobooks is the fact that the changing of the voices that's legit.
Yeah, it is difficult for me, but I guess it's harder for me because I have a deeper voice. But there was a narrator that did show me the way that does work. So I'm a big horror and thriller book reader and listener. And one of my favorite narrators, he's an actor actually. His name is Bill Paxton. You might know him from Remember the Titans. He was the assistant coach, the white dude. And is it Bill Paxton? Did I say that right? Bill Paxton. Yeah. No, I think I got it right. Yeah. Anyway, he narrated I think a few Stephen King books, and this one Stephen King book he did phenomenal. Like, it was called The Outsider. An amazing job. I mean, he voiced every character himself. But when it came to the women's voices, what I realized was he's not trying hard. And that was helpful. And I was like, okay, so that's where I got my direction for whenever I walk into doing a female's voice. So like he would just be more softer and just a little feminine sounding. He didn't mask that he was a man talking. You know what I'm saying? He just lightened it up a bit. So he would do things like, "Oh, I don't know, honey," like something like that. I'm like, okay, that's easy. I can do that. Like, I'm definitely not going to try my best to sound like exactly like a woman. But if you do that, it is distinguishing from the other male characters to that female character. So that's what worked. And so he was definitely a guide for me. And it's funny because I listened to a book out of context. Well, I heard it. Someone else listening to an audiobook. And it was a male narrator, and he was speaking from the point of view of a woman. But what's interesting is that, like, when he was speaking, he was speaking her thoughts. He said, his soft, delicate arm, grazed against mine, and my heart fluttered, and I asked this person, I said, "So he's gay?" And she said, "No, it's a woman." I was like, "But he just said his arm brushed against mine, and pretty much he liked it. So is he gay or not? And she was like, no, that's a woman. I was like, well, he didn't bother to change how he sounded at all. You know, like he just sounded like a dude. So, yeah. So some male narrators don't change up at all. They'll just sound like straight dudes. But my preference is romance. Like, it's funny because when I first got into it, I wanted to do thrillers. Like, that's really what I just wanted to stay with, thrillers. Like, that's what I wanted to be known for. And then when I got on Instagram, I created a separate Instagram for this persona. And I posted my samples there. And a woman, it was so funny. I think it was Tati Richardson. That's why I give Tati so much hell. I'm like, because she had contacted me. She had DM'd me, and hold on one second. I'm gonna turn this down before it gets loud. She had DM'd me and said, "Oh, just asking the book talk girlies. The book talk girls want to know, do you do romance?" And I was like, "Well, I've never done it, but I'm open to it." And when I realized, I never knew how big of a deal romance books were with women. Like I would have never noticed, honestly. That would have never been something I would have caught wind of ever outside of me being a narrator. When I realized how big this was, I'm like, well, then damn it, like I need to get on this then, So that's when I started recording those samples from those romance novels. And then the feedback I got from them was telling me, no, this is where I belong. All right, this is where I belong. Like, so now that's all I want to do. I want to stick with romance. However, if you come to me with a thriller that's like got a really good story, like really good big potential, I'm definitely gonna do it. Definitely gonna do it.
Yeah, I think me especially love romance because it's just it's kind of a escape, and it kind of gives you a little bit of hope that even though these are fictional characters, right?
Yeah.
But it's just something that all of us women want to have. We want to have the loving man and the protector and the provider and 9 inches of 6'4" and a tongue of an anaconda. Like we want that.
That's the perfect pack. That's the perfect pleasure package right there.
Exactly. Like we want that. And when I first joined Book Talk, I did not realize how big the romance section was myself. Right. So when I started, I was always reading romance books, but not to the extent of what I'm reading now. Like, do you remember an author by the name of Carl Weber?
No.
Okay. Well, he is like OG authors. To anybody that is listening, if you know Carl Weber, baby, you know. Okay. And he has a lot of urban fiction type of books. But I say all that to say, when I was reading those at the time, I'm just like reading. I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice, protector, blah, blah, blah. But to now transition to the things that I read now, I'm just like, oh, I really want this. This man has rented an entire restaurant out with somebody on a date, and they like screwing in his office because he's the owner of the restaurant. Like, but now I also listen to a lot of thrillers, and when I tell you, you gotta be something to narrate a thriller. Because the way, like I'm currently listening to this book, it's called The Butcher and the Wren. When I tell you, these narrators are really drawing me in, and that's one thing that I love about the audiobook space, because I visualize a lot, right? Yes. And like I always say, it takes a good narrator. Like you have to be good at narrating in order for the book to be good. And I feel like that's why a lot of people don't really like audiobooks.
Right.
Because sometimes the narrators can be
trash.
Yeah, they like I was listening to one book. I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
The book was good.
Uh-huh.
But that narrator worked my damn nerves. Okay? Pissed me off. I wanted to return the book and get my credit back because I'm just like, this narrator is bad. But like I was telling someone on the previous podcast, I just don't have it in me to go on social media to bash anyone.
Right.
And that's the same whether that's me reading a physical book or that's me listening to an audiobook, because at the end of the day, this is y'all's craft and this is how y'all feed y'all's family and this is how you take care of yourself. So I'm definitely not going to be the one to go online and be like, oh my God, Lawrence was horrible. He did it, he did this. You know, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to just try to push through.
Not that you would ever say that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, I want to know, because I have listened to some of your samples on TikTok, right? Has there, like, out of the samples that you have done, has there ever been something in the book where you was like, man, that is wow.
Yes.
That's some wow stuff. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the wildest thing that I posted on there on my TikTok was that you hide, I'll seek. I was a little scared to read that. That was a little tough because in that scene, like the male character, I guess the main male character, he has this, I don't know what kind of fetish you would call it, but it's crazy to me in my opinion. He has this fetish where he wants the main female character to run through the woods to kind of hide, and he has a friend that's close by that's going to join in this hunt. And he's telling her, he's not proposing anything. He's saying, you're going to go hide. Me and my friend over here, we're going to seek. and because we have a little bet, right? We're going to see who's faster between him and I. And the faster one gets you. And she's like, do I even want to know what that means? Get me? He says, well, can I say it? Is that safe to say it on here? Okay. Well, he says, the one who catches you first is going to fuck you. And I was like, this is crazy. And you know, the female character is like, oh, you think that's what I want? You think that's what? And first of all, a woman who says that versus like, I'm out of here. You want that? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you still sitting here in my face talking to me? Something definitely piqued your interest. So anyway, yeah, he's like laying out the guidelines, like, yeah, that's how it's gonna go. You know, if he catches you first, he's gonna fuck you. If I catch you first, I'm gonna fuck you. Like, either way, if he catches you first, you're still mine. I'm like, whoa, man, what? So, yeah, that was the toughest thing I've had to read because I wasn't sure how women would feel about that. But that was a book written by a woman, and that's in a genre that's for women. I'm saying, like, how many women are going to appreciate that? You know what I'm saying? So I posted it and whatever. Well, I mean, it got the author's interest. She definitely is. She seems interested in me doing it. She wants to finish the part 2 to that book. So, yeah. We'll see what happens with that. That was the toughest one.
So I just want to know, by you being a narrator, what are your thoughts when you see these conversations on social media of people saying that audiobooks aren't real books? You can't consider an audiobook as a book.
So I lean more that direction with a caveat, I guess. So audiobooks are real books. They're just being read to you. So where I stand, and I know a lot of people are going to hate it, where I stand is that it's not the same as reading. It's so like to say, yeah, I read that book. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I think there's more work. There's more work and effort, and actually, in the actual act of using your eyes and imagining things yourself, because you do have an aid with a really good narrator. There is some aid there for you. A really good narrator is going to voice act too, right? And it's going to really represent those characters really well. Like a good example, the narrator, I keep forgetting his name. I hate that I forgot his name because he's legendary. He voice acted. He narrated all the Harry Potter books. An insane narrator. First of all, insane. Did a great job. And so the imagination is not the burden of imagination is not on you anymore. It's placed on him. He's doing it for you. So not only you're not using your eyes to do the reading, the imagination is taken from you too, because now you have someone else painting the picture for you as far as tone and sound and stuff like that, and dialect, because there were different accents of people who live in England. So he did it all. So you don't have to do that. So the hard work is in the reading. The easy work is in the listening. So you could say, in honesty, I listened to that book. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't say, you should say, I read that book, because you didn't. So, yeah.
Okay, y'all, don't go to Lawrence page and be like, audio books, la 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 la.
Yeah. Like I said, they are real books. That it's called an audiobook for a reason. It's a book. Mm-hmm. You just didn't read it. So like when people say, I read 150 books this year, how many of them did you listen to? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it sounds real good. Because a lot of people are like, whoa, how did you read so many books this year? I can't believe it. Yeah, you listen to like 80 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in it. It's not saying like, listen, it's fun. It's fun to listen to a book. I prefer listening to a book, but I'll never tell you I read them. I'll tell you, I listened to about 20 books this year.
Okay, so Lawrence.
Yes.
Since we are on this podcast, you have to give us a little sample, but not just any sample of a sex scene.
Okay. Yeah. That's not a problem. Yeah, I could do that. Let me see. All right, so we're gonna do it from a book called Leak It. Is that good for you? Okay.
This is Leak It by A. Blossom?
A. Blossom.
Okay. I read that book. Loved that book and loved that author. Yes.
I got you. All right. You ready?
I am. Are you what chapter you gonna start from?
The first chapter.
Okay, beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. Let me put my headphones on so I can hear myself better. There we go. This feels so good, she moaned as Harlem led her over to the bench that lined the side of the tub. I followed, sitting on the other side of her. Our hands immediately roamed her body, and she returned the favor, taking my dick out of my shorts. Naomi wrapped her hand tightly around my shaft. She had me in one hand and Harlem in the other. They're so big, she moaned as her hand moved up and She moaned as her hands moved up and down my dick. Her strokes and the motion from the jets had me ready to dig up in her guts. Come here. I pulled Naomi on my lap. I should have been strapping up. I didn't fuck raw, but my dick and the liquor were in control. My hands cuffed her ass as I pulled her panties to the side. She giggled nervously before looking around the deck. It was empty. No one was around, but I think we were all too high and drunk to care. I lined my naked dick up at her entrance and lowered her down. "Fuck," I moaned. The tightness of her pussy had me opening and closing my eyes, trying to stop from busting prematurely. I slammed my lips into hers, pushing my tongue into her mouth with force as I bounced her up and down on my lap. "Ooh," her pussy gushed as she whimpered. All right, there we go.
I'm gonna call that man. Wow.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Kudos. That was awesome.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
that was good. That was really
Wow.
good.
I appreciate that.
So, what's next for you, Lawrence?
As far as projects,
Yeah, as far as projects, yeah. What you got going on next?
so I just finished a 9-hour book titled Closer Than Blood. That was written by John Kinney. Now I have to do the editing. That's gonna be a pain for me.
So you do all the editing for the books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's unless I decide to pay somebody to do it for me. I'm inclined to do that this time. I'm very, very much inclined to do it this time around. But after this, I have to finish. I stopped a thriller halfway just so I can focus on this project. Mm-hmm. This thriller is titled "When the Clouds Darken." It's by a black author named Jody Pratt. He's from California, and I think he's got a hell of a lot of potential. I think he's very skilled. He does a great job at being disturbing with his language, that's what I want. If I open up a thriller, I want to be disturbed, and I think he does a great job at that. So this book is an 8-chapter book. Each chapter is like an individual story, completely unconnected to the others, and so it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Hood type vibe, right? Each story completely disconnected from the other. So he does a great job. He's got a good imagination, especially the very first story. The very first story is the one you can catch on my TikTok. I have a few samples of that chapter on there. Very disturbing, very interesting, very creative. I could see that as like a series or a movie, for sure.
How long does it typically take you to narrate a book?
Well, so yeah, time management is a thing that I need to learn to do better with when it comes to narrating. So with the 9-hour book, I worked on this. I narrated it for about 2.5 months, maybe 3. I had a plan walking into it. I said, okay, like I have 46 chapters. I have about 50 days, so I'll do a chapter a day. I think that was a bad decision because I think I got too lax, and I was like, well, if I miss a day, I'll just read 2 chapters tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And then it became a habit. So it depends on me. Like it depends on me sticking to the schedule. So typically, I would say really like in general any book, I would say, yeah, I would give it 3 months. I would give it 3 months between narrating and editing. Editing is it's not a fun task at all. Editing will make you want to quit narrating. Editing will make you want to quit for sure.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah, I can imagine because when I'm putting stuff together like these podcasts and just creating content and different things like that, a lot of people think that it's just a couple of buttons and, you know, bing, bam, boom, you can just throw it on social media. But editing is the main part of having some good material out so people can enjoy. So I 1000% agree with you with the whole editing portion. It is something. Yeah. It is something.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It is terrible.
Wonderful. So, but before we close up, let everyone know where they can find you, or also for any authors that's out there that is listening to this podcast, give them your contact information so they can reach out to you and inquire your services.
Sure. You can find me on TikTok at lbthevocie. I do have an Instagram, but you know, it's not nothing much on there. But lbthevocie. You can catch me on. You can send me an email if you are interested in work or in my work, which is lawrenceBvo@gmail.com. And you could also find me on acx.com. Just look up Lawrence Baldwin if you are an author. Those are 3 ways to reach me and to get in contact with me. Yep.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No. How the Eagles doing?
We'll talk after the show.
Well, no, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Once again, thank you for just carving the time out to chit chat with me. It was great talking to you. Mm-hmm. Everyone, be sure to follow him on social media. Follow me on social media. Tap in with him. He responds back, y'all. If you DM him, he'll DM you back.
I will.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to Covers and Pages podcast. Mm-hmm. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And outside of that, we will chat with you later. Bye, everyone.
Peace.